Awaken your spirit, chosen ones. The greatest revenge is not destruction, but evolution. Imagine waking up one day to find out that the very people who doubted, betrayed, or mocked you are now haunted by the magnitude of your success. It's not just your rise that unsettles them, it's the brutal realization that they fueled it. Here's a fact to chew on. Studies show that people spend more time thinking about their rivals than their own goals. Now, multiply that obsession by 10 and you have your enemies. They're not just mad, they're marinating in their own envy like overcooked steaks in a revenge BBQ. But let's not rush it. This isn't just a story about triumph. This is about the kind of awakening that left your enemies questioning their existence. They played games, and you rewrote the rules. They underestimated you, and now they can't sleep because you're the nightmare they didn't see coming. Ready to dive into the most savage yet satisfying twist of destiny? Buckle up, it's about to get very interesting. At number 1, your success was the ultimate plot twist. Your success wasn't just unexpected, it was the plot twist no one saw coming, least of all your enemies. They built their plans around the belief that you would fail, that their schemes would break you, and that you'd never recover. What they didn't account for was your ability to turn their doubt into fuel and their attacks into stepping stones. Every time they tried to bury you, you dug yourself out stronger, smarter, and more determined. The beauty of your success lies in its sheer unpredictability. You didn't just prove them wrong, you obliterated their entire narrative. They thought they had written the story, but you flipped the script and left them speechless. While they were busy underestimating you, you were silently laying the foundation for a comeback they could never anticipate. Now your achievements stand as a glaring reminder of their failure to break you. It's not just about what you've accomplished, but how it exposes their miscalculations. They believed they had all the power, but your rise proved that their power was an illusion. Watching you thrive wasn't just a blow to their ego, it was a dismantling of everything they thought they understood about you. And that's the most brutal part. They can't escape it. Every success of yours is a reflection of their defeat. They're forced to sit with the uncomfortable truth that their actions didn't destroy you, they propelled you. In trying to control your fate, they only solidified their role as spectators in your triumph. It's a sting they'll feel for a lifetime. Number 2, you became their mirror of mediocrity. Your growth didn't just bother your enemies, it exposed them. It held up a mirror to their mediocrity, forcing them to confront the uncomfortable truth about themselves. Watching you rise, evolve, and succeed highlighted everything they lacked: ambition, resilience, and the courage to change. It wasn't just jealousy, it was the realization that they weren't willing to do the work you did to get where you are. They never expected you to grow beyond their version of you. In their eyes, you were supposed to stay stuck, silent, small, predictable. Your transformation shattered that illusion and left them reeling. Every step forward you took made them feel like they were sinking deeper into their own shortcomings. Your success became a measuring stick, and they came up short every time. The worst part for them wasn't just seeing you win, it was feeling like your victory directly reflected their failure. It wasn't intentional on your part. You were simply focused on your path. But to them, every achievement of yours was a glaring reminder of what they weren't doing with their lives. They didn't hate your success because it was undeserved. They hated it because it was undeniable proof of what was possible, something they weren't brave enough to chase for themselves. And so, your growth became their punishment. It's not just about envy. It's about how your evolution forced them to sit with the fact that they had every opportunity to grow too, but chose not to. You didn't just outshine them, you made their excuses impossible to justify. Every time they see you, they're reminded that it wasn't the world holding them back. It was themselves. And that's a truth they can't escape. Number 3, their weapons became your tools. The irony is that your enemies thought they were clever, throwing obstacles your way and using every tactic to bring you down. What they didn't realize was that every single one of their weapons would become your tools for growth. Every insult, every betrayal, every attempt to humiliate you, it all worked in your favor. They thought they were dismantling you, but they were unknowingly handing you the exact materials you needed to rebuild yourself into something unstoppable. When they spread lies about you, you learned the importance of standing firm in your truth. When they betrayed you, you realized the power of self-reliance and how to spot true loyalty. Every time they underestimated you, it fueled your determination to exceed not just their expectations, but your own. It's almost poetic. The more they tried to weaken you, the stronger you became. Their actions weren't just ineffective, they were counterproductive. They gave you the very fire you needed to burn through their negativity and rise above it. Instead of breaking you, they sharpened you. Instead of silencing you, they amplified your voice. And now, every victory you achieve isn't just a win for you, it's a reminder to them that they were the architects of their own downfall. The most brutal part is they can't take credit for your success, even though their efforts inadvertently contributed to it. Why? Because they didn't intend to help you, they intended to destroy you. But in their desperation to control your fate, they forgot one key thing. Pressure doesn't crush the strongest, it forges them. And now every step you take forward is a testament to their failure. They didn't defeat you, they equipped you, and that's a truth they'll have to live with. Number 4, the silent power of your presence. Your silence holds a power that words could never match. It's not just the absence of noise, it's a presence so commanding that it unsettles those who hoped to diminish you. They thrive on chaos, on drama, on attention. But when faced with your calm, unshakable demeanor, they're left floundering. You don't need to argue, explain, or retaliate. Your silence speaks volumes. It tells them, without a word, that their opinions, their tactics, and their very existence hold no sway over you. What truly unsettles them is that they can't figure you out. They expect outbursts, they crave reactions, but all they get is your quiet confidence. It's a confidence that doesn't need validation or applause. It exists because you've earned it, and that's what makes it so powerful. Your stillness forces them to sit with their own insecurities, amplifying their irrelevance in the process. Your presence alone is enough to shift the atmosphere. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you command respect without demanding it. They can't ignore you because your existence is a reminder of everything they fear: strength, authenticity, and self-assurance. While they scramble to prove their worth through noise and distraction, you stand unbothered, letting your actions and energy do the talking. The silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's a refusal to engage in battles that don't deserve your time. And that refusal drives them mad. They can't fight someone who won't step into their arena, and they can't diminish someone who doesn't depend on their approval. In your silence, you hold all the power. It screams what they desperately don't want to hear, that you've already won, and their chatter is nothing but background noise. Number 5, your resilience made them question reality. They threw everything they had at you: lies, betrayal, sabotage, fully expecting you to crumble under the weight. But instead of breaking, you stood tall. Time and time again, you absorbed their blows and kept moving forward. It wasn't just resilience, it was defiance. No matter how much they tried to drag you down, you refused to stay down. What unnerved them the most wasn't just your ability to endure. It was the way life seemed to work in your favor. Every setback they orchestrated somehow turned into an opportunity for you. Every roadblock they placed in your path became a stepping stone. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't coincidence. It was your refusal to quit, your ability to adapt, and your unshakable belief in yourself that turned their attacks into fuel for your fire. To them, it felt like reality itself was conspiring against them. They couldn't understand how someone they worked so hard to defeat kept winning. It defied their logic, their expectations, and their egos. Watching you rise despite their best efforts wasn't just frustrating, it was disorienting. It made them question whether they'd ever had any real power over you at all. And that's the truth they couldn't face. Their schemes only worked in a world where you played by their rules. But you didn't. You rewrote the rules, bending reality to match your determination. Your resilience wasn't just survival, it was triumph. It forced them to confront a world where their control was an illusion, and your strength was the only truth that mattered. And in that world, they were powerless. Number 6. Their envy became their undoing. Their envy was the spark that lit the fire of their own downfall. Instead of focusing on their growth, their progress, or their purpose, they became consumed by you. Every move you made, every achievement you unlocked, and every moment you thrived became an obsession they couldn't shake. They weren't just watching you, they were studying you, hoping to find a weakness, a flaw, something they could exploit to bring you down. But in their obsession, they lost sight of themselves. They spent so much time plotting against you or trying to match your success that they neglected their own journey. Their energy wasn't invested in building something meaningful, it was wasted on tearing you down. The irony is that while they were busy fixating on you, you barely noticed. You were focused on your path, your goals, and your growth. And so they began to fade. Their envy, instead of motivating them to do better, became a weight, dragging them further into irrelevance. They tried to compete in a race you weren't even running. Their attempts to outshine you only highlighted how far behind they were. The ultimate blow wasn't that they failed to hurt you. It was that their obsession with you left them with nothing to show for themselves. You lived rent-free in their minds while they lived unnoticed in the shadow of your success. Their envy wasn't just a feeling. It became a slow erosion of everything they could have been. In trying to beat you, they lost to themselves. And now their undoing stands as a stark reminder that envy is a self-inflicted wound, one that only deepens when left unchecked. Number 7. You proved them wrong without saying a word. You didn't waste time arguing, justifying, or proving your worth to anyone. Instead, you chose the quiet path, the one where your actions spoke volumes and your growth became the loudest statement of all. While they were busy doubting, gossiping, and predicting your failure, you were working in silence, building a version of yourself they never thought possible. Your transformation wasn't a response to their negativity. It was a result of your focus, determination, and refusal to stay stagnant. The beauty of it was that it didn't require a single word of explanation. You didn't need to defend yourself or engage in their petty games. Your achievements did all the talking, and they spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. Every milestone you reached was a silent rebuttal to their doubts. Every success was a reminder that they had no idea who they were dealing with. What made it brutal wasn't just that you proved them wrong, it was that you did it effortlessly, without stooping to their level or acknowledging their attempts to hold you back. Their criticisms and doubts now seem laughable in the face of your undeniable growth. They realized that their words held no power over you, that their opinions didn't define your reality. The most crushing part for them is knowing that they no longer have a place in your story. You've moved on, elevated yourself, and left them behind. Your silence wasn't just strategic, it was devastatingly effective. It forced them to face their own irrelevance while you soared to heights they couldn't imagine. In the end, the most brutal revenge wasn't confrontation. It was the unshakable proof of your evolution. And now, they have no choice but to watch from the sidelines, silenced by your success. Number 8. Your light exposed their darkness. Your light wasn't just something you carried, it was something they couldn't escape. The strength of your authenticity shone so brightly that it exposed everything they tried to hide. Their lies, schemes, and manipulations couldn't survive under the spotlight of your truth. They thrived in shadows, relying on half-truths and whispers, but your presence made it impossible for their darkness to stay concealed. It wasn't that you went out of your way to expose them. You didn't need to. Simply being genuine, standing in your truth and living with integrity was enough to unravel their carefully constructed facade. They built their narrative on deceit, assuming it would stand unchallenged, but your authenticity didn't just challenge it, it dismantled it. Their manipulations, which once seemed so calculated and effective, suddenly looked petty and desperate when contrasted against your honesty. The more they tried to twist the truth, the more obvious their lies became. It was as if their own actions betrayed them, amplifying the transparency of their intentions. What made it worse for them was that you weren't playing their game. You weren't interested in proving them wrong or seeking revenge. You simply lived your life with integrity, and that was enough. The contrast between your authenticity and their deceit was undeniable, and it left them exposed in ways they couldn't control. Their power over you dissolved the moment your light touched their darkness. They realized too late that the strength of your character was something they couldn't undermine. In the end, their lies didn't hurt you, they hurt themselves. Because while you thrived in the clarity of your truth, they were left to grapple with the ruins of their falsehoods, fully exposed and powerless against the weight of your light. Number 9. You didn't just survive, you thrived. Surviving wasn't enough for you. It was never just about getting by, about weathering the storm or outlasting the struggle. You refused to be defined by the obstacles they threw at you or the challenges that sought to break you. You looked at the mess they tried to create and saw an opportunity, a chance not only to survive, but to rise. And rise, you did, in ways they never anticipated. While they thought they were just pushing you to the brink, you were quietly plotting your resurgence. You didn't let their attempts at harm dictate your fate. You transformed the very adversity they intended to crush you with into the foundation for your greatest triumphs. What they hoped would destroy you became the catalyst for your success. But you didn't stop at simply enduring. You took it further. You thrived. You crafted a life so rich with purpose, achievement, and fulfillment that it made their petty efforts to harm you look insignificant. You built something beautiful, something real, and something they could never take away. Their negativity, their cruelty, their sabotage, they tried to box you in to keep you small. But you shattered their limitations and proved that you weren't just a survivor. You were a force. You turned their attempts to destroy you into stepping stones, and now the life you've created is a reflection of your resilience and vision. And as you look at the life you've built, so far beyond mere survival, you can't help but smile. Because you know the truth. They were never a threat. They were simply the backdrop to the masterpiece of your transformation. Number 10. They lost the one thing they craved: control. They thought they had power over you. Their words, their judgments, their manipulations all seemed to have an effect. For a time it felt like they were the ones holding the reins, deciding your fate and pushing you into corners. But the moment you stopped seeking their approval, everything changed. That was the moment their control over you dissolved, and with it their grip on your life slipped away. What they never understood was that their power over you wasn't rooted in their strength. It was in your willingness to give them a place in your story. As long as you sought validation from them, they had a hold on you. But when you finally realized that you didn't need their permission to live your truth, you took back what was always yours: your autonomy. What they couldn't bear to witness was how effortlessly you reclaimed your life. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't some public declaration, it was a quiet, powerful shift where you stopped waiting for their approval and instead started carving your own path. You made decisions that were true to you, built a life that aligned with your values, and took full ownership of your future. For them, this was the most painful defeat. It wasn't the loud moments of defiance. It was the quiet power of self-determination. They wanted to see you broken, dependent, begging for their validation. Instead, they watched as you soared, unaffected by their opinions or control. You showed them that their power over you was always an illusion, and when you stopped playing into it, they were left powerless. And that, for them, was the real loss. Number 11. Your existence became their greatest regret. They underestimated you, thinking you were just another obstacle to step over or an easy target to overlook. But in doing so, they made the mistake of not recognizing your potential, not understanding the force you were about to become. Now, as they watch you thrive and achieve things they never imagined, their only consolation is the deep, gnawing regret that they ever crossed paths with someone like you. What they didn't anticipate was that you weren't just another face in the crowd. You weren't meant to fit into the little box they tried to put you in. You were destined to rise far above the expectations they set for you, far beyond the limits they thought they could impose. And as you continue to climb, their regret grows heavier with each step you take, because they know that the person they dismissed has turned into the very thing they can never reach. They thought their actions, their words, or their indifference would have little effect on you, But in reality, they created the very conditions that forged your strength. Every slight, every moment of doubt, every effort to push you aside was the fuel that pushed you to the extraordinary heights you've reached now. They thought they could break you, but instead they only pushed you further into greatness. Now every time they see your success, every time they hear about the life you've built, they can't escape the crushing realization. They missed their chance to see you for what you truly were, unstoppable. Their only legacy is the regret of having ever underestimated someone as extraordinary as you. And that regret is a weight they'll carry forever. Number 12. You became the standard they couldn't meet. They tried to compete, to measure up to you, thinking it was a simple matter of matching your pace. But what they didn't realize was that you weren't playing in the same game. You weren't even in the same league. You had set your own standard, one that was miles ahead of where they even thought to look. The moment they made the mistake of comparing themselves to you, they sealed their own fate in a relentless cycle of frustration. They tried to keep up, to one-up you, but every time they made an attempt, you were already miles ahead. The goals they set for themselves were laughably small in comparison to the vision you were chasing. And as they fell further behind, the frustration set in. They couldn't figure out how you kept going, how you kept achieving, how you were seemingly untouchable. Their desire to compete turned into a race they could never win, and the harder they tried, the more they realized they were running in circles. Their obsession with catching up only highlighted the truth they refused to acknowledge. They were never meant to compete with you. You were setting a standard that was uniquely yours, and it was one they would never reach. It wasn't about being better than them. It was about being so far beyond their reach that their efforts became irrelevant. They spent all their energy trying to match up, but in the end, they were left frustrated, exhausted, and defeated by a standard they couldn't even comprehend. And all the while, you continued on your path. Not in competition with anyone but yourself, setting a bar so high that it made their every move feel insignificant. You became the standard they couldn't meet, and in trying to match you, they only proved how far out of their league you really were. Number 13. Their awakening was your masterpiece. The hardest pill for them to swallow wasn't just that you succeeded, it was that you went far beyond what they thought possible. They expected you to stay within the limits they set, to be boxed into the same mediocrity they were comfortable with. But you didn't just break free, you shattered their perception of what you could achieve. You transcended their expectations, their limitations, and their narrow vision, and in doing so, you created a masterpiece of success that they could never have foreseen. For them, the most brutal part of this awakening was realizing that their attempts to keep you down were futile. Every effort to hold you back only propelled you forward. While they remained stuck in the comfort of their own mediocrity, you were rising, evolving, and building something extraordinary. The irony is that their push to drag you into their world of complacency only highlighted how stagnant their own lives had become. And now, they stand trapped in the very place they tried to confine you, while you live in a reality they can't even fathom. They wanted you to be just like them, stuck, unremarkable and small. But instead you left them behind in a life of frustration and regret, while you soared to heights they never believed you could reach. Your success wasn't just a victory. It was a masterpiece that painted the harshest truth for them. They now see that they were never your obstacle. They were just a footnote in your story. And in their attempt to break you, they only built the framework for your most extraordinary evolution. In the end, your journey wasn't just about overcoming the obstacles they threw your way. It was about proving that no one, no matter how hard they tried, could define your worth or limit your potential. Every challenge they presented became a building block for your growth, every insult a lesson, every betrayal a lesson in resilience. You didn't just survive, you thrived, showing them that the power to create your destiny always rested in your hands, not theirs. Their envy, their doubts, and their attempts to hold you back all turned into the very fuel that ignited your rise. They underestimated you, tried to tear you down, and spent their time playing small games while you focused on building something extraordinary. And now, as they look at your life, they see the irrefutable truth. You've created something that their petty efforts could never touch. You didn't just win, you elevated yourself to a level they could never comprehend. They thought they could break you, but they only made you stronger. They wanted to control you, but you took control of your own fate. Your light exposed their darkness, your silence was your loudest response, and your success became their most painful regret. The story you've written isn't just your triumph. It's a testament to the power of resilience, authenticity, and a refusal to be held back. And while they're left trapped in the mediocrity they tried to force on you, you stand as a shining example of what happens when you refuse to let anyone define you or your potential. The true victory wasn't in beating them, it was in becoming the person you were always meant to be, regardless of their attempts to hold you down. And that, in the end, is your most brilliant masterpiece. If you found this story inspiring and it resonated with your own journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Like, comment, and share this with anyone who needs a reminder of their own strength. Your support means the world and helps us continue to create more content that empowers, inspires, and motivates. Join the community and let's keep rising together.